say the name again?
Bobby Abshire, and Bobby, you're a member of our Old Fort Feasibility Committee.
Yes, ma'am. I'm a student at Fort Lewis College. There's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on, because I know we've heard this budget thing a lot, but you know, the students, when they look at what this building costs, and they see that their education and their teachers and their programs, they really appreciate our cut, but yet we've got this $60–80 million, well, I don't know, I'm not sure what it costs building. We feel like there's some management priorities in order that need to be addressed. We can put up a facade that the building is there, but where are the classes? And after looking at the catalog this year, I mean, it's pretty sad. I went to, quickly, I was going to go in a different route, but you're addressing it, the agriculture. A lot of students are taking a different role and not even just calling it agriculture anymore, but calling it food security. We're worried about whether or not we're going to eat, much less be able to have agricultural business. And so we're looking at local food initiatives. I've seen what Beth LaShelle's ag department has done, and those kids are incredible, and the food that they grew is incredible. And 6,000 acres is an incredible place for a university to start in these key cunning curriculums that are going on right now that are economically feasible for the future and of our water and our food and our children. That's why we're in school. We're trying to learn about how to solve our world's problems and the future that our children have, and learning how to have a relationship with our food, like this elder here that spoke before me, is a very important thing to be in our culture and to be able to be know that we're human. And I think that we're wrong when we say the students don't want agriculture. We want the new awesome alternatives that a lot of students have. And I don't know if anybody's even asked students for ideas, but I had been on the committee and didn't get a very welcoming reception the first week I was on it. So that made me a little gun shy. But I do want to encourage you, Ms. President, to look at biodiversity and food systems that are wildlife friendly, the organic market, the localized food system market, and we are at the hub of the revolution of localized food systems in the Four Corners. And I think that it's definitely something to look at. And ecologically protecting the land. I wanted to get back to really quickly, I'll try to hurry as soon as I can, but the first thing that created this land. The very first thing was that we have to remember that the indigenous people in this area, and that existed not just of Southern Ute and Ute Mountain and Northern Ute, which were at one time all one people before being subjugated. It was also the Dene people, the Pueblo people, the Apache people. And I also want to talk about, and it's not the people in the region, but the children that this act and this land, they weren't just this region's children that went through this school. The act that created this land was the Indian Appropriations Bill of 1910. And in describing the act, it applied to a lot of different statutes to several different states, and we are one of the last ones that this is actually remaining intact. An act of making appropriations for the current and contingent expenses of the Bureau of Indian Affairs for fulfilling treaty obligations with various Indian tribes and for the purpose of the fiscal year June 13th, 1911. And then later, of course, we all know that it says, upon acceptance of the land, the said lands, and they shall be made buildings, fixtures pertaining to the said school, provided that the said lands and buildings be held and maintained to the state of Colorado as an institution of learning, that Indian pupils shall at all times be admitted to such school free of charge for tuition. And the 150 some odd children's graves out there tells me that this act wasn't free. And shall at all times be admitted to such free of charge on terms of equality with white peoples. And this is really clear here. It's not complicated. So I guess what I want to make sure that everybody keeps in mind is that, like this 1982 lease, after Hesper's Trust was created to help with the waiver, we see that the Board of Trustees of Colorado agreed to all 6,300 and something acres free of charge. There's no telling how long. And then I've got a letter here with the Treasury Department that says our records reveal that no such payments for the uranium leases have been received on this section of land drilled by Great Western Drilling Company in 1955. The irony here is that we moved the school in 1956, and the argument is well, the educational component doesn't really have to apply, but the 10th Circuit Court case clearly says that the 1916 Act as an experimental station does not apply. It says it only applies to Grand Junction. So that means that the provisions and the land and the buildings are always at beneficiaries of the student's education, because it never changed from the original act. And so I'm looking at a lot of education and academia models that can benefit the students and our local economy and our local culture here in the Four Corners region, and would also build a bridge for Indigenous communities and non-Indigenous communities. You know, and I think that there's a lot of hope here, and people may call it a pipe dream, but the students, and particularly my organization on the student campus, Buffalo Council, what we want to see is a complete stop to any mismanagement of funds for the Hesper's Trust account. Because that waiver should not, if those leases were really leases, should not have been in danger from financial problems. And neither should our school. And if CSU is signing that for free for all that time, there's a problem. But we could also use the land as intended, which is for educational curriculum for students. And that's what I want to encourage everybody to think first and foremost about. Thank you.
Who wants to start first?
Well,
It's on. Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to start fussing. I think Bobby makes some very good points, and I mean, what I can tell you is that all the revenue the state land board receives gets distributed every year. There's no account. That's the way the accounting process works. When you get money from a lease, you distribute it. So all the money that we're earning right now from Mount Utes on their grazing lease, money that we will receive from ERI, and any other uses that we receive money for will be distributed to the Hesper's Trust account, and that is maintained by Fort Lewis College. In terms of past uses of the property, the practice of allowing the beneficiary to have beneficial use of the property free of charge is one that the board has used across the state. A perfect example of that is state parks. We have several leases, several trusts, there are 2 trusts with state parks. And much of the trust land associated with those 2 trusts are within the boundaries of the state parks in Colorado. This way, then the state parks doesn't have to go out and buy that additional land. It can be part of a trust that they use for beneficial use. So the issue of allowing CSU a lease on the property free of charge was consistent with that practice, because the board at the time